Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to live this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up tonight. We're gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We're gonna light it up.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that St. Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Welcome back to the program, folks. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to everyone out there. I hope you're having a pleasant, festive season as we get closer and closer to Christmas. Just 11, is that right? 11? Yeah, 11 days away, a little over a week away. Wow, that's crazy. It's crept up on us. I haven't prepared for the Christmas program, although I have reached out to a couple people in the last day to see if they're available to come on the program. Remember that every year for Christmas, what we do on the program is we have a Christmas Eve show. And traditionally, I've read letters in English, German, French, Afrikaans from kids to Santa. I haven't elicited those this year. There seems to be very little enthusiasm for that or for Christmas, so not going to put the effort in. If they come in, I'll read the letters, but I dress, of course, as Santa Claus. And the program is really for viewers, a payback, and for the kids. On Christmas Day, it is my birthday, the anniversary of my birth. I do celebrate it every year, and we do a live broadcast on Christmas Day each year, which the past couple of years has been quite nice because it's been the biggest Super Chat day of the year. It's been pretty awesome. Really enjoyed it as people gave Christmas birthday gifts to me. So thank you for that. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. And then the other thing is usually on Boxing Day I do a broadcast. So we'll see what happens there. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat before we get into the news and our Advent calendar. John Jarvis is here. Welcome, John. Gerald Lazarus, Vilma Erasmus, Philippa Gladstone. Hello, Philippa. Gabrielle was waiting on me. Well, sorry, Gabrielle, but I had to make sure that the software was working properly. It was glitching a little bit there, and so we're good. We're live. Garrett Gillich is here. Well, Garrett, Val Cooper, good to see Val again. Rainier. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Today is the 14th. So, where is 14 on there? That's 17, 15, 22, 19, 23, 24. Here's 14 hiding over here in the corner. There's our little chocolate treat coming out of there. And it looks, I don't know what the heck that is. Is that a snow cone? I think that's like a popper with gifts in it or something. It's kind of weird looking. Anyway. Oh, it's a bell. It's a bell. Sorry, there's a picture behind there. I should have realized that the picture's behind there. It's a bell. Okay. It's a bell. Interesting. All right. So we're running out of Advent's chocolate. So, by the way, this comes from Aldi. What's wrong with the snowman's fingernails? He's got 3 fingers. My snowman has 6 fingers in total. He was shortchanged. Well, Champions Cup action again tomorrow. Get your Super Bruce picks in. And Challenge Cup as well. I've done my Champions Cup. I haven't done my Challenge Cup yet. Need to get that done today. Always very busy, folks. So last night, went in the Wayback Machine with Sherman and Mr. Peabody to the late 1980s. And I watched Spencer for Hire, one of my favorite shows, with Robert Urich and Avery Brooks. Love that show. Spencer for Hire. What a great show that was. Of course, Avery Brooks is more famous now, not for the character Hawk that he played on Spencer for Hire, but rather for Captain Benjamin Sisko from Deep Space Nine. which was brilliant. He was incredible in that role. Holly assortment of Christmas chocolates. Holy assortment. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, I hope you're all well out there today. Good to see you. A small crowd. Hopefully it will build, but there you go. Speaking of small crowds, the sun is out, but not nearly as bright as it was yesterday. So at this time yesterday, I forget what I had, but I had more electricity. Right now I've got just 2.31 kilowatt hours, but it's burning at about 3 kilowatt hours. So hopefully that'll pick up, but doesn't look to be as intense as it was the past couple of days. Shame. Trying to reduce our carbon footprint. Anyway, folks, I hope you're all well out there. I did a video earlier, a short form live stream about Sonny Bill Williams' comments about Eddie Jones and his departure from excuse me, his departure from Rugby Australia, going to sign with Japan. Sonny Bill was full of all kinds of nasty things to say about Eddie Jones. Whatever. You can go watch that video and make your own conclusions and draw your own conclusions from it, but you're welcome to do that. So anyway, news to talk about today. Eskom has suspended load shedding. Merry Christmas, folks. The festive season. Eskom is getting in the flow of things by suspending. Whoops, that is not the right button. Can't put that next to it. Yep. This follows a steady de-escalation of load shedding throughout the week, and so now they have sufficient generation capacity because everybody's leaving the grid. So independent energy analyst Peter Jordan noted earlier this week that the return to periods of suspension load shedding is thanks to a trifecta of supportive conditions for the grid. Demand is trending lower, because people are using solar. Breakdowns are decreasing, which they should, and the return of Coburg has boosted the power supply. True, but the ANC is not out of the woods. The energy availability factor, which is a key performance statistic, is low. Just 55% of the available capacity is actually available for use. Now, the peak is at 60% 8 weeks ago, and it's the target is 65%. Can you imagine being a business and your target for success is achieving 65% success? Think about that. So only 65% of the time when you sell things, you expect to make a profit. You're not going to be around very long. If you study science and you get 65% on your marks, we don't want you responsible for the Voyager mission. We don't want you involved in the Starlink program. We don't want you involved in anything if you can only get 65 on your science test. Yeah, imagine that. But that is Eskom's goal, is 65% availability. That is pathetic. They should be looking for the 99999 Six Sigma of General Electric, which made them famous with virtually no outages. But hey, this is Africa. What are you expecting there, folks? Cyril Ramaphosa has reaffirmed his stance on Israel. The South African Jewish Board of Deputies met with Ramaphosa at his residence in Pretoria. And they call for renewed diplomacy with Israel. Ramaphosa is sitting on the fence after spewing all kinds of anti-Israeli hatred. Now says he's not breaking diplomatic ties with Israel, and the diplomats recalled from Tel Aviv will remain in South Africa during the ongoing crisis so that he can save face with his commie friends on the left. South African Jewish Board of Deputies made requests relating to diplomatic recognition of Israel and to the boycott of Israel and Jewish businesses in South Africa. The petition Ramaphosa to restore full diplomatic recognition of Israel, including the reopening of the South African embassy in Tel Aviv, and to ensure that the U.S. or the Israeli embassy in Pretoria will not close. But Ramaphosa said, we haven't closed it. It's up to Israel whether their ambassador's here. Wow. Well, talk about fence sitting. But Cyril Ramaphosa is very famous for that. The man who never accomplished anything in his life was handed a vast fortune and has turned it into nothing. Speaking of confused politicians, we just saw the recent, not betrayal, but departure from the African National Congress of Mavuso Msang. Mavuso Msang famously left the ANC just days ago, but now, after intervention from Fikile Mbalula, I wonder what he was promised. Is he in on the grift? Just more corruption? This man makes a stand saying that he can no longer be part of the ANC because it's a party of corruption, and just days later, he's back in it. What did he get? ANC veteran Mavuso Msang has agreed to withdraw his resignation after a meeting with Secretary General Fikile Mbalula. He resigned a few days ago, saying the party failed to act on corruption. He also said the country is in a state of crisis. Mbalula also said he regretted the remarks he made over the weekend that Msang took money from new parties. The ANC Veterans League had taken a resolution in its conference a few months ago. The ANC must not include people who are implicating corruption in the list of parliamentarians. So, we are determined that only members whose reputations are beyond reproach and will be included in our list of candidates for parliament and provincial legislatures. Really? So, Fikile Mabalula, does that mean that Zwelin Kizi, Zandile Gumeda, Ace Magashule, Cyril Ramaphosa, Jacob Zuma, none of these people will be on the list for parliament, correct? Correct? People beyond reproach. Cyril Ramaphosa, Minir Palapala, is certainly not beyond reproach for his dealings. $580,000 in U.S. cash brought in suitcases delivered by a Sudanese businessman for the purchase of prime cattle, which never left the ranch, and they're still there. The money stolen, inside job by workers at Palapala, absconded to Namibia, not reported to the South African Police Service, handled illegally extrajudicially by the president's security detail, who hunted down the suspects, lied to Namibian police, reportedly tortured the suspects, all without reporting it. And the South African Police Service and Protection Services also guilty of fraud, submitting an annual report saying that there were no incidents in any of the 43 government-protected residences, including Palapala. They lied to the public. They should be charged with criminal activity for that cover-up. This is a cover-up, and this is a president whose presidency should have ended the moment that Palapala was exposed. Minir Palapala is not beyond reproach. He is suspect in each and every way. Yep. So, will you in fact remove him from the parliamentary list, which would mean he cannot serve as president? Well, it's a good fit. Two tiny parties joined a multi-party charter. And actually, where's that at? Yep, I had a news press release from the multi-party charter. They sent that to me. And now that's a separate one. There's two here. Let me get the correct one here. There you go. Invitation to the United Christian Democratic Party to join the multi-party charter. They put this out a few days ago. And now it has been finalized. Two small parties joining the multi-party charter. Now, here, this story in the News 24, and this image is from the conference in August that I attended when these leaders of these 7 parties agreed to form the charter at Emperor's Palace. The United Christian Democratic Party and the AK2 People's Party are the latest to join the charter. In the 2019 elections, UCDP only got 628 votes, less than 1% of the electorate. United Christian Democratic Party and the AK2 People's Party joined a host of other parties under the umbrella. It was announced today. UCDP was founded back in 1977, by none other than Lucas Mangope. That's right, folks, Bophuthatswana. This is a legacy of Bophuthatswana, the UCDP, founded by Lucas Mangope, who is still beloved by many in Bophuthatswana and even many in Botswana, neighboring Botswana. So, the other party, the newer one, said that they have registered 47,000 people. Well, we'll see if that's true. If so, that's another 50,000 potential votes that could be taken away from the ANC. So, multi-party charter is making progress. Well, inflation has eased a bit in South Africa, and this should be a break for businesses. Annual producer price inflation saw a larger than expected drop, potentially adding further relief to consumer price inflation. According to Stats South Africa, annual producer price inflation, which is a leading indicator for consumer inflation, dropped from 5.8 in October to 4.6 in November. Bloomberg had projected it to be to 5.1, so still 4.6% inflation is high. That's not a thing to be excited about. Well, we're not giving over the city to criminals. This is what the mayor of Cape Town, Jordan Hill Lewis, has to say. But crime statistics tell us something completely different, my friend. Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill Lewis walked in the footsteps of crime victims in Table Mountain National Park today, determined to help make the tourist attraction safe, just hours after an armed suspect was apprehended in a sting operation on Lion's Head. He was joined in that walk by Safety and Security MMC J.P. Smith, the city's tourism unit, law enforcement, and residents of neighboring Tamborskloof for a morning walk to highlight safety issues within the park. We've had a spate of muggings on the mountain in recent weeks, and the city with sandparks and SAPs has responded in large numbers across the mountain with extra officer deployment, including 80 officers from the city alone. One of the hotspots is the Lion Battery, where the noon gun on Signal Hill takes place. Most of the suspects appear to be young people who rob hikers of their belongings. Well, this has been going on in Cape Town for years. It's long overdue that attention be placed on it. Of course, my last visit there, Paulie and I went to Signal Hill, where the gun is at for the noon gun, and we participated, even though it's been shut down. The public is no longer allowed to go there because of the ineptitude of authorities in Cape Town and the National Services sandparks. Yep. The Democratic Alliance has unseated an evil coalition led by the ANC in Witzenberg, and they're now in charge once again. This chaotic coalition unseating governments at municipal level needs to stop in South Africa. The Constitution needs to be amended to stop this from happening. The people should vote for the mayor, not the town councils. The people should vote for the mayor, not the town councils. Stop this stupidity and allow governments to rule. Special council meeting today saw MEC Anton Bradel appoint Dean O'Neill, Overstrand municipal manager, to preside over the motions. Political instability peaked after the DA's July removal and the installation of a new coalition government led by Good, ANC, EFF, ICOSA, Witzenberg Action Party, and the Patriotic Alliance. Wow, what a mouthful that is. So Christmas came a few days early for the DA on Thursday when it regained control of Witzenberg municipality in the Western Cape. This comes after several successful motions against the ANC and his coalition partners at a special meeting today. It took place in the absence of the speaker and municipal manager, who were not available. There you go. New leadership municipality comprises councillors from the DA, the Witzenberg Party, the Witzenberg Action, and the Freedom Front Plus. The DA's Trevor Abrahams was appointed as mayor, and Elizabeth Sedego is the new speaker. Well, there you go. There's new leadership in Witzenberg. Hopefully. Oh, but I thought it was a white party. Isn't the DA a white party? Those white folks have some pretty darn good tans. Those are impressive tans for white folks. Well, South Africans don't exactly revel in the current state of the country. Yeah, they don't trust their leaders. This story is reported by Business Day and Business Texting Me and IOL. South Africans don't trust their leaders. Wow. In a revealing turn of public opinion, the latest South African Reconciliation Barometer shows a significant rise in distrust towards the country's leadership, with the majority of South Africans expressing skepticism about the integrity and effectiveness of those at the helm of governance. You think? Lee Ronganger tells that story, but it's also reported in other stories in South Africa. Let's go through some of the stats that came out. Here are some of the responses from 2,000 South Africans who were questioned in this Afrobarometer survey. 81% believe that national leaders are not concerned about ordinary people. That's shocking. 79% think leadership can't be trusted to do the right thing. Well, in many cases, that is true because ANC leads the country. 33% express confidence in Parliament. That's pretty low. 33% have confidence in the legal system. That's terrible. 32% express confidence in the national government. And 35% have faith in Cyril Ramaphosa. Wow. 35% have faith in the president. 82% believe that corrupt South African officials get away with it. Yep. 74% think there's no real political will to fight corruption. And 19% think corruption will improve in the next 2 to 3 years. So basically, South Africans in a 2/3 or more majority believe the country is in the crapper. Here's where some progress has been made, according to the survey respondents. 51% feel like they do not understand important issues affecting South Africa. I guess it must have been much higher in the past, but half the people in the country don't understand issues that affect them. That's crazy. 52% believe that they are less informed than other people about politics. Well, it's 50% would be accurate because there's probably people better informed, but 47% think that they're unqualified to participate in politics. Well, that's probably why voter turnout is so low. 76% believe that leaders should follow the will of the people. Why shouldn't that be 100%? 74% say that citizens should make important policy decisions. I don't agree with that. That's why you have representative government. 70% say that they are likely to vote in 2024. I'll believe that when I see it. Greater than 40% of South Africans regularly socialize with people of other races. Okay, that's a pretty high figure. 54% believe that their loved ones have experienced reconciliation since the end of apartheid. That's very good statistic there. And 76% say reconciliation is still needed in the country. Well, yeah, but genuine reconciliation, not the TRC, not EFF, not ANC reconciliation, but genuine reconciliation. Sure. Yeah, and some more stats from that Afrobarometer poll. These are the positive outcomes. 85% say that being South Africa is an important part of how they see themselves. Well, that's good. 79% agree that apartheid was a crime against humanity. Well, that's problematic. 77% of South Africans agree that there is more that unites us than keeps us apart. 75% believe that a more united country is desirable, and 72% believe that a more united country is possible. Well, that's over 7 out of 10 people think that South Africa can do better. That's impressive. Good to hear. Well, the Cape Winelands Airport project is continuing. This fantasy, going to spend billions of rand to build this thing, is still in the works. And I don't know when it's supposed to be active, but the stats in this story talk about the year 2050. Are they serious? Are they serious? It's got to be open for them. They must be projecting how advanced it will be by 2050. By then, if it hasn't been built and been used for years, that doesn't make any sense. Times Live says Cape Winelands Airport could double tourists with the wine tasting and the vineyards. The long-awaited Cape Winelands Airport is a step closer to reality with the unveiling of concept plans that promise an airport experience with wine tasting, vineyards, and an outdoor amphitheater. Okay. Airport needs various approvals as in conducting an environmental impact assessment that goes ahead. It could attract thousands more visitors to Cape Town. Yeah, not if they're being murdered in the Cape Flats. A consortium of private owners on Tuesday hosted a media tour of the picturesque site between Belleville and Stellenbosch, at which project stakeholders detailed their plans. In addition to the aforementioned visitor attractions, amenities would include a botanical garden and an aviation museum. The outdoor amphitheater would seat 5,000 people. Wow, you can have concerts there. They believe 7 billion rand expansion program would turn one of the region's oldest airfields into a transport hub and springboard into one of the country's fastest growing residential areas. We're thrilled to introduce this airport expansion to Cape Winelands region, said Diane Clote, of the managing director of Cape Winelands Airport. So some of the features include a 3.5 kilometer long runway, terminal capacity of 5.2 million passengers per year. They're very ambitious. Aeronautical activities, including aviation-related businesses and supporting infrastructure, a low-carbon footprint with renewable energy sources such as solar and chicken manure, biogas, state-of-the-art water recycling systems. The airport, just 10 kilometers from Belleville, is perfectly situated to handle some of the spillover in traffic from Cape Town International, and will, of course, attract its own international routes as well. Really? We'll see. Given how dangerous it is for tourists in the Western Cape, that's an uphill struggle at the moment. Maybe when this thing is built, maybe by then things will be better. Who knows? But the angry, naughty children must go, and the competence of SAPs must be dramatically improved, and the prosecution of criminals must take place. Northwest government apparently is deploying 35 vehicles to escort international tourists, ostensibly for buses. Those of us driving in rental cars are screwed. But the Northwest government deployed 35 vehicles to escort tourists traveling across the province during the festive season after the spat of robberies that are taking place. Those going to Sun City and Pilanesberg have been attacked and robbed on buses on the 556 route. Temporary measures to prevent similar incidents in the province. Brett Hopa, Sun City's general manager, said the escorts would safeguard tourists traveling on the R556. Yeah, sure. Okay, you say so. Turning our attention to Namibia, they're still playing the blame game. Their prime minister says that apartheid is the reason why Namibia is poor. No, SWAPO is the reason why Namibia is poor. Wealth disparity. Namibia is still grappling with the after effects of apartheid, she tells folks at a UN event. Prime Minister Sarah Kungongelwa Amadila says Namibia is still grappling with, among others, the after effects of apartheid's discriminatory policies. Ladies and gentlemen, apartheid ended in Namibia, which was never enforced. There were racial policies, but it ended in the 1980s. The 1980s, 40 years ago. 40 freaking years ago. It ended. And she's blaming that. Multiple generations of Namibians responsible for their own governance, money handed to them by the IMF, by the World Bank, by the United States, by the European Union, by the German government, and the country's still desperately poor. Maybe it's poor because the Herero and the Damaro weren't particularly advanced scientifically and technologically and have not progressed since that point. Maybe that's the reason. Well, the fish rot scandal continues to plague Namibia. This, of course, is when government officials illegally gave tenders to Icelandic companies to pilfer the fish. Well, a judge of Zimbabwean origin enters a plea. Judge Moses Chinhengo on Friday took a hardline stance to the fish rot trial by entering a not guilty plea for all the accused persons in the matter, after many refused to plead without legal representation. In an extraordinary move, Zimbabwean-born Chinhengo applied Section 109 of the Criminal Procedures Act, which says where an accused in criminal proceedings refuses to plead to any charge, the court shall record a plea of not guilty on behalf of the accused, and the plea so recorded shall have the same effect as if it had been actually pled. Well, that's not an extraordinary move. It's not extraordinary at all. That's the norm in judicial systems that are legitimate the world over. If a defendant refuses to enter a plea, the court is not forced to wait for that plea. The court will, in abundance of caution, set the plea at not guilty. Yep. Well, the nonsense in neighboring Botswana continues with the Masisi persecution of former President Lieutenant General Ian Khama. Now, the Gazette says that Khama is defying government. Former President and Kosikolo Kaya Bangmangwato, that's the Kosi, the leader of the Bangmangwato people. Ian Khama has instructed his uncles to convene a meeting at the main Khotla Sorowe, where Khosi Seretse Peter Khama is to be presented as the new acting regent. This is in spite of the incumbency of the government-appointed Khosi Serokhola Seretse. Yeah, so Masisi's interfered in the Bangmangwato affairs by appointing a traditional leader, and that's not his place to do it. And so Khama is directing that someone else be installed as a regent, and the media don't like this. Well, Zimbabwe officials get slapped with more travel restrictions, which will, of course, be blamed for Zimbabwe's economic collapse. You watch. Here we go. Zimbabwe electoral malpractices exposed in election observer mission reports have attracted more sanctions from the United States. Targeted restrictions, not sanctions, which says some targeted individuals will now be restricted from getting travel visas. Yep. The fallout between Harare and Washington will affect members of ZANU's or Zimbabwe Electoral Commission who preside over the sham 23 August elections. It will affect those accused of undermining democratic processes and human rights. So, Secretary of State Winkin, Blinken, and Nod on the 4th of December described the heinous acts as manipulating or rigging the electoral process, disenfranchising voters, or preventing individuals from exercising their right to vote, excluding members of the political opposition from electoral processes, restricting the ability of civic organizations, or intimidation of voters, election observers, and civil society through threats or acts of physical violence. Also talked about other heinous acts. The names are not being given. In a written response, U.S. Embassy spokesperson Harare Larry Socha tells the Africa Report that there are 59 individuals and 39 Zimbabwean entities that are on that restricted list. And we are not releasing who is added to the list. Additionally, Socha said it's not U.S. sanctions that are having the biggest impact on Zimbabwe's economy. The problem for Zimbabwe's economy is decades of mismanagement and racism and theft and criminal activity. That's the problem. Well, I had to look to see if this came from the Babylon Bee or the Onion because it's comical beyond belief. I'm participating in a panel tomorrow talking about African security, and I'll probably mention this because it's difficult to take Africa seriously when this happens. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that the most impressive example of economic development in the entire continent of Africa in 2023 was none other than Zimbabwe, with robust economic growth, inflation tamed, under control, private investment soaring, foreign investment soaring, agricultural production up, mineral production up, industrial production up, education levels improving, health service improving. It has been just a wonderful nirvana in Zimbabwe, right? But has it? Oh, that's all fake news. I mean, none of that's true, right? Of course it's not true. But get this. I don't know who because I don't see it in this article, but the BBC runs an article saying that Zimbabwe's finance minister is named as Africa's best finance minister. Mthuli Ncube, Zimbabwe shock as finance minister named Africa's best. Many Zimbabweans react with astonishment after Mthuli Ncube was named best African finance minister of the year despite the country's economic turmoil. One user on Twitter said the award was akin to applauding a captain for steering his ship straight into an iceberg. Now they're called it the greatest joke of the decade. Zimbabwe's unemployment is as high as 85%, according to economists. 80% of transactions are carried out in U.S. dollars, and there's a lack of confidence in the Zimbabwean dollar. Reputation Polling International organization that says it manages reputations gave Mr. Ncube the award on Sunday. Hopewell Chinuno, the targeted activist, said the war was an insult to Zimbabweans. He expressed incredulity, especially after Mr. Nkube's recent budget that Chonu dubbed the most anti-people national budget Zimbabwe's ever had. You'll see an increase in taxes, a hike in passport fees to $200, up from $120, making it the most expensive in the region. Added that Mr. Nkube is presiding over the worst economy in the world, brought about by his misguided and corrupt policies. Zimbabwe's economy has struggled for decades. The Zimbabwean dollar was withdrawn in 2009, yada, 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 yada. Zimbabwean finance minister name is Africa's best finance minister. Is this the Onion? Or is it Babylon Bee? I'm sorry, folks. That's Well, some good news for Zimbabwe. The Beira Railway Corridor has been restored after decades of neglect and inability to use it. Zimbabwe's regained access by rail to the port of Beira in neighboring Mozambique, reopening the Mozambique section of the cross-border line. Originally built in the late 19th century, the line has faced many challenges over the years, including a 1977-1992 civil war in Mozambique, during which the railways were mined, and there was a failed privatization attempt in the 2000s. The disrepair eventually was such that trains could derail several times a week in spite of the limited speed of just 60 kilometers per hour. But in 2019, $200 million since then has been spent by funding bodies, including the African Development Bank, the Southern African Development Community, on upgrading 318-kilometer section of the line traversing Mozambique. So there you go. And they also straightened out the alignment considerably. So that's good news. Zimbabwe will now have another venue to get stuff out. Well, Somalia has been forgiven most of its debt. Why, I don't know. This is another gift to the developing world. And at the same time, we see Vox running a story saying that, well, we should be compensating. We should be paying reparations for climate change to Malawi over Cyclone Freddy. No, I'm not paying for nature. I have nothing to do with that, you morons. Take your own money and give it to them, not mine. Somalia granted $4.5 billion in debt forgiveness, and another boneheaded move. The International Monetary Fund and World Bank approved giving away our money yet again to a country that will never repay it anyway. And now we're going to give them more money under the Heavily Indebted Poor Countries Initiative, HIPC. Initiative launched back in 1996. Following HIPC completion point, Somalia's external debt has fallen from 64% in 2018 to less than 6% by the end of 2023. Yeah, your debt has fallen. But my rates have gone up. My bills have gone up because the banks that made those loans at the behest of governments like the United States and international financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank are out all the money. They haven't been compensated. So we bear the burden of the misuse of those funds by Somalia. Tunisian High Court has handed down a suspended jail sentence to an opposition figure who insulted the fascist totalitarian overthrow illegitimate president of Tunisia, Kais Saied. Yep. Tunisia court hands suspended jail term to opposition figure Chama Issa. Tunisian military court, ladies and gentlemen, a military court. Why are military courts trying civilians? This is not legitimate. Tunisia is not under martial law, is it? Is it under martial law? Military court has no authority over a civilian unless it's martial law. Tunisia military court Wednesday sentenced opposition figure Chama Issa to a 1-year suspended prison sentence for offending President Kais Saied, the thin-skinned fascist dictator. Issa, 43, was found guilty of causing offense to Saeed, spreading rumors to harm public security, and inciting soldiers to disobey orders, her lawyer Diala Ben Mubarak told folks in a Facebook post. She's a member of the National Salvation Front coalition. After a court hearing Tuesday, they said Saeed's opponents were being treated like criminals. We are not criminals. We are not plotters. We are not traitors. We are politicians, opponents of the coup of 25 July 2021. Saeed, who was democratically elected in 2019, overthrew the government in July 2021 and has suspended parliament since then. She was arrested in February this year as part of a crackdown on opposition and released in July with her trial pending. So she was in jail from February, March, April, May, June, July. 6 months she's spent in prison because she's a political opponent of the scumbag. Since February, more than 20 Tunisian political opponents, businessmen, and others deemed terrorist by Said have been jailed over alleged plot against internal security, of which there is no such plot, and Joe Biden is completely silent on one of our most reliable diplomatic partners in North Africa, Tunisia. While innocent members of parliament are imprisoned by their political opponent who unlawfully, illegally overthrew his government. And what has Joe Biden had to say about that since he became president? Jack squat. Of course he said nothing. He said nothing because he doesn't give a flying flip. Joe Biden doesn't care about Tunisia or Tunisians. In fact, almost nobody does. Iran says the U.S. better not start a task force in the Red Sea because it's their zone of influence. U.S. and allies in talks to form multinational task force to address attacks by the Houthis. Iran's Defense Minister Mohammad Reza Ashtiani has warned that a planned United States-backed multinational task force to protect shipping in the Red Sea would face extraordinary problems. Iran, bring it on. Bring it on. You want extraordinary problems? We'll give you extraordinary problems. Ashanti's comments come after the U.S. said last week it was in talks with other countries to set up a task force to deal with the attacks. If they make such an irrational move, they will be faced with extraordinary problems. Nobody can make a move in a region where we have predominance. Excuse me. What predominance does Iran have in the Red Sea? I'm sorry. Are your aircraft carriers stationed there? Your cruisers, your battleships? What predominance do you have? Oh, you mean your illegitimate funding and support for the terrorist group Houthis? Yeah. Who murder people left and right. Is that your predominance in the Red Sea? They're not even at sea. They're on shore. That's why they're firing rockets from shore at ships. The irrational move to protect international commerce? These theocrats in Iran need to go. They need to go. They need to go. United States voted down the UN resolution. Yep. U.S. vetoes UN resolution backed by many nations demanding immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. The vote in the 15-member Security Council was 13-1 with the UK cowardly abstaining. The United States' isolated stand reflected a growing fracture between Washington and some of its close allies over Israel's months-long bombardment of Gaza. France and Japan were among those supporting the call for a ceasefire. In a vain effort to press the Biden regime to drop its opposition to calling for a halt to fighting, the foreign ministers of Egypt, Jordan, and Palestinian Authority, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey were all in Washington on Friday, but their meeting with Secretary of Blinken took place only after the UN vote. Well, none of these countries, Egypt, Jordan, the Palestinian Authority, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or Turkey, ever called for Hamas to stop firing rockets in Israel in the past 16 years. So they have no credibility. So, futzak, piss off. No credibility. You just want Jews dead and Arabs to roll. Pope Francis taking on unprecedented attacks from his American opponents. This Pope, who's overstayed his welcome in the Vatican, continues to be an asshat. Pope Francis insists on a merciful Catholic Church open to everyone. Yeah, right. Right. Undermining Catholic faith and Christianity. But a showdown is underway. The unofficial leader of the opposition is U.S. Cardinal Raymond Burke, one of the church's legal experts and a figure whose style and approach harken back to a church of a different era and whose views closely align with those of the traditionalist wing. Francis, while maintaining he upholds the church's doctrine and principles, which he doesn't, has tried to move the church on from some of those customs he sees as hampering its mission. Those who oppose Francis say they're deeply concerned about his openness to giving communion to divorced and remarried Catholics, which is not allowed, along with his pastoral welcome to LGBTQ people, which is not allowed. They don't like his focus on migrants and the climate crisis, and they want Pope instead who lays down the law and presents doctrine in black and white terms. Yep. Yeah, Pope Francis, the 87-year-old, has overstayed his welcome, and now he's striking out against his opponents, taking away their privileges, their residences, in a venal, vindictive attack against those who challenge his fascist leadership of the Vatican and the Catholic faith. Vladimir Putin says the goals for Ukraine are unchanged, despite the losses, despite the cost, despite the international isolation, aside from his Chinese commie friends and his commie friends in South Africa. Russia's goals in Ukraine are unchanged, no peace until they're achieved. And what are those goals, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we've heard them before. Fielding questions from the public and the media in Moscow, the Russian leader said peace will be possible after denazification, demilitarization, and a neutral status of Ukraine, something he said since Russia invaded Ukraine back in February 2022. So, the Ukraine war, what did I tell you? People kept asking me from the day it started, when will it end? I told you it's 3 to 5 years minimum. Well, 2022, 2023. Now we're going to 2024. 2 years already. Yep, ain't going nowhere. Emmanuel Macron's government is shocked after losing an immigration bill, which they thought they'd get passed because they thought they appeased those on the right, but they didn't. French President Emmanuel Macron's government is in crisis after opposition parties united to defeat a key immigration bill. MPs on the far left didn't like it. MPs on the far right didn't like it. And the moderates weren't too happy about it either. Wow. Following the defeat, Interior Minister Gerard Darmanin offered to step down. He's viewed as a hardliner on immigration. He had strongly supported the draft law. However, Macron rejected his resignation. Well, there you go. Efforts to convince opposition MPs to back him failed when disparate factions voted for a motion to reject the bill. MPs from the far-right National Party joined those from the far-left France Unbowed and the right-wing Republicans and smaller parties to defeat the government by 270 to 265 votes. Arthur Delaporte, an MP for the Socialist Party, said that the vote against the bill was unjust, scandalous, and a threat to freedom. Government says it will now seek to redraft the bill. Well, the right thought it was too soft, the left thought it was too harsh, and nobody voted for it. An Irish town says, enough, we've had enough. Stop dumping these people in our towns. Yeah, well, that's what we're all saying here in Harrisburg, too. Irish towns say enough is enough as hotels fill with asylum seekers. Rosslare Harbour, Ireland. On a poster placed near 3 hotels filled with asylum seekers, fake asylum seekers, and Ukrainian refugees, the residents of the small Irish town of Rosslare Harbour have a blunt message to the government. Enough is enough. Wow. It's an uncomfortable truth for the Irish establishment. Immigration is now firmly on the political agenda for the first time and is likely to play a significant role in national elections due in 2025. Will it cause anti-immigrant or far-right parties to gain traction? Yes, I do believe that'll happen, said local residents group chair Bernie Mullen. There'll be a backlash in elections, and it's their own fault. Well, there you go. 100,000 Ukrainian refugees have arrived in Ireland, a country of just 4.5 million people. That's insane. That's insane. Get out. Amazon wins a tax fight against the European Union, which fraudulently tried to sanction it. Europe's top court on Thursday sided with Amazon in a case in which the U.S. e-commerce giant was accused by the European Commission of illegal tax benefits. It stems from a 2017 case when the European Commission, the European Union's executive arm, alleged Amazon received tax advantages from Luxembourg. Amazon was ordered to pay 250 million euros in back taxes back in 2017, but they fought this. The European Court of Justice said the Commission, the EU's executive arm, had not established that a tax agreement between Amazon and Luxembourg was a state aid that was incompatible with the internal market. There you go. Amazon says they welcome the ruling. Well, there you go. Amazon wins and the EU loses. I love when the EU loses. Voyager 1. Remember that? No, not the Star Trek movie where they had V'ger. Voyager 1, the space probe that was only supposed to be in our solar system, is encountering problems out in deep space, sending a jumble of ones and zeros. Voyager 1, the most distant human-made object from Earth, is sending back a repetitive jumble of ones and zeros that don't make any sense. Scientists at NASA are desperately trying to fix the glitch from 24 billion kilometers away. Now, that's a roadside assistance there. The probe can still receive commands from Earth, but messages to interstellar space require 22 and a half hours to go one direction. So it's nearly 2 days to get a message there and back. That means it will take days before experts know if their attempts to restore the probe's nearly 50-year-old computers have worked or not. It's not the first time that Voyager 1 has sent back random readouts. In 2022, it started doing the same thing, but they managed to fix the problem. Now, in this case, the glitch is coming from disruption in communication between one of the 3 computers on board. And yes, before you ask, they have already tried at NASA to turn it off and turn it back on. It didn't work. Yeah. Today, the phone that sits in your hand, your mobile phone, can handle 100 billion instructions a second. But Voyager's computers can only process 8,000 a second. Bear in mind, the computer's over 50 years old, folks. The mission was never meant to last this long. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which were launched right after each other in 1977, were mainly designed to explore Jupiter and Saturn. They're now zooming further and further away from us through interstellar space, having left the solar sphere. Wow. Voyager 1's outgoing data can be fixed. Science, if they can fix it, they hope they can continue the missions for its 50th birthday. Wouldn't that be cool? But the days are numbered because eventually its nuclear-powered source of energy will die, and they'll no longer have power. The Boston City Hall is roiling after its racist mayor. and her racist staff sent out a racist message excluding majority white American council members from a meeting. And this just shows you that racism is prevalent, especially amongst minorities against majorities. Boston City Hall royal by email party invitation for electeds of color sent to all. The Wu administration official on behalf of the mayor mistakenly sent all Boston City councilors an email Thursday inviting them to a holiday party that was meant exclusively for electeds of color, prompting an apology and mixed reactions. Denise Dos Santos, the mayor's director of city council relations, told the body's honorable members that on behalf of Mayor Michelle Wu, she was cordially inviting them, each of them, and a guest to the electeds of color holiday party on Wednesday, December 13th at the Parkman House, 33 Beacon Street. 15 minutes later, however, she sent out a follow-up apologizing. I want to apologize for my previous email regarding the holiday party for tomorrow. Dos Santos, a Cape Verdean black woman, said, I did not send that to everyone by accident. I did send it to everyone by accident, and I apologize. The email may have been offended or it came across. Sorry for any confusion. Yes, caught being a racist. You black Cape Verdean, caught being a racist, and you are upset that you got caught. Yeah, here's the message, folks. Let me get it up here. I didn't do this. This hatred of majority Americans, this racism, which is facilitated by Hollywood and by the corrupt Biden regime, is shocking to say the least. Here you go, folks. There you go. Let me make that fit to the screen. Elected of color holiday party. Denise Dos Santos. On behalf of Mayor Michelle Wu, I cordially invite you and a guest to the racist electeds of color holiday party, excluding all white council members, because we in Boston are avowed racists who hate white people. There you go. Please let me know if you plan to attend, if you have any dietary restrictions. I have a dietary restriction, which is going to make me vomit over your bigotry and racism, Miss Dos Santos, you race hustler. Shame on you. Shame on you. These people have no business being anywhere near elected office. And they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi. Outgoing City Councilor Frank Baker, who's white, described the mayor's decision to exclude some members as unfortunate and divisive. He said the email didn't offend him. Yeah, because you're probably a leftist. Yeah, it didn't offend too easily. To offend me, you're going to have to do much more than not invite me to a party. Councilor Brian Worrell, who is black and vying for the council presidency before tentatively agreeing to become the body's vice president next term, defended the invite, however, saying that the holiday party is simply another example of reflecting all kinds of specific groups in city government. No, it's not. It's you freaking moron, Brian Worrell. It intentionally excluded people. It's not reflective of anything other than racism and bigotry. Unbelievable. Wow. So what were you going to do with this elected of color party? Celebrate your oppression of the majority? Celebrate your bigotry and racism against them? Woohoo, we got Whitey. Sick people. Sick people. Speaking of more, a former Facebook diversity strategist, more proof of wasted money, diversity strategist convicted of stealing from Facebook. Former Facebook global diversity strategist stole more than $4 million from social media giant to fund her lavish lifestyle in California and Georgia, according to federal prosecutors. Barbara Furlow Smiles, it's almost always black folks with these, or English folks with these ridiculous hyphenated surnames, who led various Facebook diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from 2017 to 2020 and stole the money through an elaborate scheme. Now, Facebook cooperated to prosecute this criminal. I hope she spends a lot of time in jail. Won't be wearing all that makeup. Yep, she pled guilty, led to court, was not the top DEI leader for Facebook, just one of them. So this minor official who's there for equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let me explain to you what that means. That means no diversity, inequity, and exclusion of majority Americans. And they staff it with thieves. Well, here's more racism. I haven't seen this and I won't see it. And my subscription Netflix is on life support after they raise my rates again. Now $24 a month for this race hustling slime bag piece of scumbag network, Netflix. And I've about had my fill of it. It's enough. It's enough. And this latest offense is going to probably cause me to close. Once I watch the current season of Virgin River, I'm done with these scumbags. Yep. Obama-backed film Leave the World Behind sparks controversy for its comment about white people. Its bigotry and racist comment about white people. And unfortunately, Julia Roberts is in it, along with some other very talented actors who disappoint me beyond belief, including Marshala Ali, very disappointing, and Ethan Hawke. In the film, it says, not to trust white people. This racist line. Trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people. Disgusting, vile, racist pigs. Expose them for what they are. Expose them. The man charged in the murder of a Jewish synagogue president, Samantha Wall, in the media, don't bother to mention this, but let's check this out. Oh, there he is. Yeah, he's a fine, upstanding WASP citizen, isn't he? Yeah. Yep. They're saying they found no evidence of a hate crime. Yeah. Okay. All right. There you go. Jewish woman murdered by black man. Nothing to see here. Jill Biden's bizarre Christmas video is really torquing a lot of people off. I haven't seen it, and I'm not going to watch it. Anything Jill Biden says. Dr. Jill Biden. Of course, she's not a doctor. She's a PhD. But anyway, Dr. Jill Biden. Jill Biden's White House Christmas video is slammed as bizarre, freaky, and absolute garbage. Also very short on white people, I see. First Lady Jill Biden's efforts at spreading some Christmas joy have been met with derision and astonishment from many who labeled her celebratory video as bizarre, freaky, and absolute garbage. The video posted by Dr. Biden on Wednesday shows members of New York City-based dance troupe Dorrance Dancers tap dancing, playful interpretation of Nutcracker Suite through the halls of the White House. Magic, wonder, and joy is the theme this year, said Joe Biden. So here's some pictures of these people dancing around the White House. Look at that face. Yeah. Throughout the video, the dancers smile in bright costumes, tap dancing away, but many on social media question what exactly the clip has to do with Christmas. The ballet in which the Nutcracker Suite appears is set on Christmas Eve. Others posted photos and videos fondly remembering the former First Lady Melania Trump's Christmas celebrations. Comments under Dr. Biden's X account were not kind. Ian Miles Chung said that Dr. Biden's efforts gave off a Hunger Games aesthetic. Libs of TikTok said this should come with a sensitivity label. It's horrendous. Desperately pandering, so much cringe. The secondhand embarrassment is off the charts. Children should not be watching this smut. It is a mentally ill Christmas at the Biden White House. And then, of course, Ziano says, never forget what they took from you. Yeah, very pleasant Christmas there from Melania Trump. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Jill Biden dorking things up there for her husband as if he can't do enough damage. So police are looking for a man in York County who is a porch pirate. Yeah. They're looking for a man. So given that 95% of the population, 96% of York County are white, I would presume it's a white guy. Odds are in your favor. It's a white guy who's stealing things from people's packages from their porches. Right? Yeah. It's happened right here in my neighborhood and throughout the county. And the reason they haven't caught the guy, despite having him on film from Ring door cameras and other sources, is because of the way they describe the gentleman. And so people are looking for the wrong person. Police looking for York County porch pirate. And there you see him there. Police in York County searching for a man caught on video stealing a package. Spring Garden Township police say on December 8th, an unknown person stole a package from the porch in the 700 block of Spring Lane. Suspect then left in a black sedan. Okay, we gave the color of the car a black sedan. But why have they not said that it's a black man, a skinny black man wearing blue jeans and an Adidas hoodie? Why have they not said that? Why did the media not tell you he's a black man? They're apparently trying to aid in capturing the criminal, but they don't tell you he's black. Why? Why? Because they're scum. And they equate identifying someone with racism. It's not. It's a description. 60 people currently here. Got some questions. South Africa will be a zombie Marxist brothel economy. It isn't already. Hey, Shack Dweller, how's it going? Let me go back and see some of the chat here in the last few minutes. See what people got to say on this Thursday. 2 people just left. I guess they're done. The news, they're gone. Poof, out of here. Just like pumpkins. Oh, sorry. Rockin' and rollin'. You won't be Joelin' tonight. Joel. When people Joel, they roll. Remember that? Because it's on Talon Bezuidenhout's stupidity. Fiona's channel. Check it out. That cold sweat place, Fiona. Okay. I would say the U.S. should mind what's going on its own borders, but Iran also intervenes in other states. No, see, Radine, no. We're going to part company on this one. We're going to part company on this one. The United States is the world's maritime global policeman because no one else will do it. The United States provides maritime security all over the planet, including in Antarctica, but primarily in the Pacific and the Atlantic, the Red Sea, and the Persian Gulf. Without that, Radine, you would be freezing your ass off because your country relies on oil from the Middle East. Not us. We don't get oil from there. Almost no oil comes from the Middle East of the United States. But the Europeans would freeze to death without gas from Russia, which they are freezing in Germany because they're not taking anymore, and without oil from Iran, Saudi Arabia, and others. Without the U.S. providing security for the maritime shipping lanes, global commerce would be attacked by pirates on a daily basis, not on a weekly basis. So we part company on that one. I'm familiar with geostrategic policy and the importance of that. Now, I don't agree with the United States is doing that. I think others should carry their share of the load. India, United Kingdom, but it has no ships. Italy, they have no ships. Germany have almost no ships. So the burden falls to the United States, the world's global maritime. We police the global shipping lanes, and that is a global shipping lane. Without that shipping lane, Europe would freeze. And you're welcome, because it comes out of my pocket to pay for your security. Brother's a Catholic, but I'm barely disappointed. This Pope is a disgusting, vile human being, and he's an interloper who sticks his nose in other people's business. Yep. Church assists the Nazi escape through the rat line. So did the International Red Cross. The Red Cross, they also assisted the Nazis escape. So, you can blame a lot of people for that. Yep. What else we got here? Small correction, you didn't say buongiorno after 6 p.m. You say buonasera. Well, it's not 6 p.m. here, so I say salve. I was considered off by Putin. Yep, exactly. That's why he did steps he took. Yep. Leon is here. Welcome. Aliens. Yeah, exactly. Germans also tired of Ukrainians illegal immigrants. Yep. What else? Carl Nyhorse joined the EFF. What? He joined the EFF? I didn't hear that. Elective color. What the hell is that? Says Hendo. Exactly. Where is Kamala Harris? She's busy at the COP28. She was there, but nobody really covered it. Hey, Myra. Charles says, so do you have to blacken up and wear... Exactly. Malcolm Clay. Hey, Malcolm, how's it going? I see you're there. What's your take on Major League Rugby? Says Menage a Trois. They're not dropping like flies. This was not unexpected. We knew that that there was a trouble in Toronto and also New York. So here's the problem. Give me a second. When it comes to Major League Rugby, I said from the outset that the owners, many of whom were deep-pocketed, would have to have patience for 5 to 8 years. They have to be willing to absorb losses and not make money. And they have to focus on television contracts to get a revenue source so they don't go broke. And number two, they have to put bums in seats. Major League Rugby managed to get television coverage, but they actually paid for some of it, which was backwards and stupid. So that was hurtful. It didn't help them. But they did get coverage from ESPN, from CBS, and some of them picked it up. So that was helpful. But they have never successfully achieved getting people with bums in the seats. And I chalk it up to poor local marketing. Poor local marketing, and other reasons too. It is very unappealing to watch rugby being played on a baseball diamond. It is very unappealing and dangerous to watch rugby played in artificial turf. Now, it works in the UK and Ireland. I don't know how, but anyway. But natural turf is the answer. And so that failure to get bums in the seats, which is a disaster. I mean, look at the DC franchise. The crowds are atrociously small at DC, but it's a popular team. Those who are fans really, really love it. But they've done very little to grow the fan base and bring more people to it. There are no cross promotions. There's no effort. There's almost no promotion of the sport whatsoever on radio, which costs money. But there's other ways to do it. You can give interviews. You can have players go on and on sports shows and grow interest. You can do clinics and get out at local schools and introduce the game to people. But that is not happening sufficiently enough, with the exception of a few places like Seattle and possibly Houston and a few other places. The teams aren't dropping like flies. The Toronto franchise found itself in the same position as the Atlanta franchise. Both were backed by wealthy, elderly individuals. The Atlanta franchise, in just its second or third season, went to the conference final, won in Atlanta. I was present for it. Their 80-plus-year-old owner was hailed as a hero, and it was fantastic. I have the images. I have the video from that. Then they played Los Angeles in the final, and they lost, and the owner died several weeks later. Well, that put the team up in the air because the family didn't want the team because he wasn't making money off of it. Despite good crowds in Atlanta, wasn't making money. So they wanted to be divested of that. So they sold it to another group, and that other group wasn't making money. They moved away from Life University. I'm not really sure what that dispute was about. They fired their head coach, and their head coach, Scott Lawrence, is now the USA acting rugby coach, not the Major League franchise coach. And he'd done great things with the team. And they've fallen on hard times. They changed their uniforms to some bizarre green color. I'm not really sure what that was about. Green and peach. I guess it was Atlanta, Georgia, peaches. I don't know. And now the team is moving to Los Angeles because another group has bought them. So that's what happened to the Atlanta franchise, which had a lot of popular support amongst the rugby community in Atlanta, which is not small. But the crowds were good at times, but not always. So Atlanta moved because an owner died. Toronto's elderly owner died, and no one wants to carry the loss-making operation. The Toronto Arrows lost a lot of money because during the COVID season, the entire team was shipped to Atlanta. They lived in Atlanta and operated out of Atlanta, played all their games. So they weren't making money in Toronto, and almost nobody came to games. Who wants to watch the Toronto home game in Atlanta, Georgia? And who wants to watch the Arrows? It was a dumb name anyway, and their uniforms were ugly. Sorry. And because they were hard-headed and virtually every player was Canadian, they weren't that dynamic and flaring. So, so they folded. That's not unexpected. A deep pocket owner is dead. And so the other people don't want to carry the burden. Same in New York. The Irish-American property developer who started Rugby United New York had off to a good start. At some point, he sold an equity stake to someone else, which was probably smart because now here we are 5 years later and it's bankrupt. Or 4 years later. It's gone. Now, Rugby United New York was a very different situation. They couldn't find a home. Rugby United New York played in 3 different places in New Jersey. They played on Coney Island. They played at St. John's University, all over the place. It was impossible to follow this team, yet they still had fan support. But, the inability to go to a regular place, a game, a decent field, really had an impact on this. So, that's why. But the other franchises, Houston, Seattle, Utah, are still supported by the deep pockets, and in those cases, they're actually, I don't know if they're actually profitable, but they are making money. They got revenue turnover. They got bums in the seats in Houston. They got bums in the seats in Seattle, and they get a lot of bums in the seats in Utah. So hopefully they're making money. So does that answer the question, Menage a Trois? Wealthy owners of any sports team is always short-term. Exactly, Fleshin. What do you think Argentina wanting to dollarize the economy? I think it's not good for America. There's enough dollars outside the economy. It's just they're admitting failure. And it's actually probably good for the dollar. So, rugby's not promoted to schools in the USA. Correct. Arkansas in February for work, says Shaq Dweller. Really? Arkansas? Arkansas? Denver had a rugby team, Garrett, and they were the first to leave the league. The Glendale Raptors were an original member of Major League Rugby, a founding franchise, and after a couple seasons, they became the Denver Raptors, and then eventually, or the Colorado Raptors, excuse me, not Denver, they became the Colorado Raptors, and then they left the league. They're saying they're concentrating on rugby development, but I think they left the league because they weren't making any money. Yep. Good evening, Frank Corp. How are you? Yeah, so Major League Rugby has got some real challenges. But as we go forward, there's a new franchise in Miami. I don't know if it's going to play this season. There's a new franchise in Chicago, the Hounds, who had a very difficult start last year, and then they came on strong. They played really, really well last year, the last 2 games. So let me go look that up real quick. Okay. Excuse me. Ooh. So let me see if they show us. So it was founded in 2017. The first season was 2018. 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3. 6 years now. Yep. New England won the most recent championship. Seattle's won 2 titles. New York won a title as well. And Los Angeles won a title. So, with the DC team, now this map is up to date. With the New York team gone and the Toronto team gone, it's an all U.S. So now we have Seattle, LA, San Diego, Utah, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, Chicago, Miami, DC, and New England. So we've lost Atlanta, we've lost New York, we've lost Austin, we've lost Toronto, and we've lost Glendale. 5 teams have come and gone in Major League Rugby. Yep. But in that time frame, we've added New England, DC, Miami, Chicago. I think that's it. Oh, Dallas. So we've lost 5 teams, we gained 5 teams. But this is not a good spread because it's, you've got a cluster of Dallas, Houston, and New Orleans. You could throw Miami in there. It's regionally close. You've got a cluster of LA, San Diego, and Utah, and you could throw Seattle in even though it's far away. And I suppose you have a cluster of Chicago, DC, and New England, but I mean, it's not ideal. Not ideal. Major League Rugby relocation deal being on shaky grounds. No, I've not heard that. That's news to me. Yeah. So, the 11 teams competing in the 2024 season are divided into 3 divisions. It's announced that the Miami Sharks will be joining the league in 2024. On August 17th, they announced that ATL will be relocated in Los Angeles. In November, they announced that Toronto would not compete. Less than a month following Toronto's announcement, the New York Ironworkers withdrew from the competition. Yep. So, the divisions are as follows for this season. Miami Sharks playing in Fort Lauderdale, and the New England Free Jackets, the reigning champions, playing Quincy, Massachusetts. Old Glory playing in Boyd's, Maryland. Okay, Boyd's, Maryland. That's new. They're moving now to Maryland Soccerplex. This is not where they played at before. So where the heck is this at now? Let me take a look at this. I've got to go to a new location for. That's actually not great for me. So it's a straighter shot, but it might take a little because Leesburg is where they've been playing. Now they moved over to Maryland. So DC has played at Catholic University. They've played in Leesburg, Virginia for the past years, and now they're moving into Maryland. Wow, that's news. So I'll see if I'll cover those. So DC's playing there now. Chicago's playing at SeatGeek Stadium, which is a nice arena. I was there for their game. It's a big stadium. It holds 20,000. The Jackals are still playing at Choctaw Stadium, which that holds 48,000. That's the baseball stadium. SaberCats at their purpose-built 4,000-seat stadium in Houston. And New Orleans Gold at a former minor league baseball field called the Gold Mine, and that seats 10,000. So in the West Division, it's L.A., which is really Atlanta. San Diego Legion, who've been there since the very beginning. They play in a 35,000-seat stadium. Seattle Seawolves at their 4,500-seat stadium, which sells out regularly, and the Utah Warriors at their 5,000-seat purpose-built stadium, which sells out regularly too. So, we have Utah, Seattle, San Diego, all original franchises. New Orleans, original franchise, that's 4. Houston, that's 5 original franchises. There are 5 original franchises out of 11. Yep. So there you go. That's who's in the league. Florida, what's this? It was DC playing in Maryland. Wouldn't that be closer to you? You'd think so. Geographically, it's probably about the same distance, but the traffic getting down there is horrendous because I have to drive DC traffic. It's just outside DC. So plus it's off the highway. It takes a little while to get to it. Whereas at Leesburg, you cross the Potomac, you drive down a secondary road. So it's probably going to be an easier drive depending on the traffic. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's actually closer. So. Anyway, it's a long drive for me either way. It's about 90 miles. Or 60 miles, something like that. Anyway. But yeah, we'll see. So, yeah. So 3 divisions with 11 teams. 1 division has just 3 teams. But the geographic spread, I just said, with the exception of I said, well, that's weird. I would have put Chicago. I would have mixed this up. I would have put Miami in the Central Division and Chicago in the East Division. Now, I see why they did it geographically, though. It makes sense, like baseball. So, all right. What else we got here? So, love the States. Would move there in a heartbeat. Yeah, no, States is pretty cool. Some nice stuff out here. Wyoming, awesome. Let's talk about sex, baby. I need to review my membership. Only noticed now. I'll be back. Oh, Shaq, yeah, your membership is gone. Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while, Shaq. You've been busy doing something else. Wonder what you're up to. Anyway, 46 likes. Come on, man. Help a brother out. That's nothing. By the way, so I told you about this, the United Christian Democratic Party and joining the multi-party charter. They also have distanced themselves from media reports of presidential candidates. So this is another multi-charter press release here. Here you go. This one came out several days ago, but I didn't print it out until yesterday. So this says multi-party charter for South African notes, media reports over the weekend. This is previous weekend regarding discussions between one of the parties, the DA, and our agreement and Mr. Roger Jardine, who's now started his own party. Change starts now, particularly as it relates to his intention to enter politics. It's fully recognized that every party in the charter has an autonomous right to engage with and make decisions about their relationship with different individuals and organizations. Notwithstanding this fact, the multi-party charter for South Africa would like to point out that there have been no discussions relating to a joint presidential candidate for the charter. The charter agreement recognized the individual identity of each party and the imperative for each party to grow its individual electoral support with a view of advancing the prospects of a collective majority. It's understood that this requires each party to advance its own offer to the South African people within the context of the agreement. The multi-party charter will also like to make it clear that any decision to support a joint presidential candidate either before or after election will be based on the merit and mandate of the candidate. Yep, and all the media folks sent this out from multi-party coalition. Yep. All right. Yeah, please hit the like button. Oh, we did. We dropped 6 people or 8 people. Now we're back up 3. Crazy stuff, YouTube. But we did gain a few likes. Thank you for that. Mighty impressed with your geo and flag score. Yeah, I was disappointed my flag score was not impressive. Yeah, the boundaries, of course, I know all the international boundaries. And I usually know the flags. I rushed through it. Plus, I'm under the weather, so I'm not focused. But normally, if I don't get 100% in flags, I'm disappointed. My cousin runs a flag shop in Maryland, which I've pointed out before. My father started that business, if I'm correct. Yep. He sells you any kind of flag you want. You want a Rhodesian flag? You want a UDI flag? You want a Vatican flag? You want an Andorran flag? Whatever flag you want, you can find it. He can get it. Yep. Anyway, so speaking of flags, I was looking at our flag at the VFW. It looks like it might need to come down. It might be damaged on any edges. Excuse me. So, what am I missing here? What are you guys saying here? What have I missed? Yeah, so Menage a Trois. Oh, Matt Canali. Where's Matt? Matt's in there. Matt's trying to get those Super Brew picks. I saw it here a second ago. Where'd Matt go? Come on. I hate this thing sometimes. It's really annoying. All right, I'm going to go every single one because I saw somebody respond to Matt, and then I saw Matt there. But now I'm not seeing Matt. I do not see him there. Oh, there he is. Oh, he said hello. See, Matt's trying to be on the down low. He's not letting people know he's here. He's just like saying hi. Oh, there he is. Yeah, very unappealing to watch rugby on a field with gridiron lines and soccer lacrosse lines. Seizure. It is, Matt. And it's also horrible to watch players play on artificial turf. I mean, it really ruins the game of rugby because the ball bounces like this way or that way because there's concrete under the turf instead of natural turf, and it's an unnatural bounce, and it really harms the game, the quality of the game. So artificial turf is a dumb idea. You know, I realize that people don't want to have like DHL Greenpoint Stadium where, you know, you sneeze and you dig up, you know, a meter of turf, but that's because of the poor choice of turf there, and also their poor decision to leave Newlands, which had a great field. So, yep, absolutely true. So did anybody see the Sonny Bill Williams comments about Eddie Jones? It's not funny, but I'm laughing. So David Skippers in Planet Rugby had an article about Sonny Bill Williams. He calls him the All Blacks legend. He's not a legend. He's an incredible athlete, a pugilist, a boxer with a perfect record until his most recent fight in which he fell. Now he's 9 wins and 1 loss. He had, I think, 4 knockouts in that. But anyway, but he's a boxer. He's a rugby league player. He's a rugby union player. He's a converted Muslim. He's a character. He's half Samoan, 1/4 Kiwi, 1/4 Australian. But he's not an All Blacks legend. And as a player I love to watch, but his comments about Eddie Jones are comical because many of them apply to Sonny Bill Williams. Of course, he says that, you know, that it's a shame because he just lied to people. He says, this is what Sonny Bill said. He said, my thoughts on this whole saga is that he lied, Eddie Jones. Obviously, he lied to the players. He lied to the public. He lied to the Australian Rugby Union. What a disgrace. I guess that's my first point. Well, yeah, I can't dispute that. It appears that he did lie. So, I mean, you're right there. He said, the second point would be that I feel sorry for Japan. His track record speaks for itself. It does. It does speak for itself. Incredible success as an assistant coach for the Springboks. Incredible success for his tenure at England, winning 18 straight games from the moment he took over, winning the Six Nations, taking England to the World Cup final, playing their hearts out and smashing the All Blacks in that semifinal, which they're still bumhurt about. Yeah, his record speaks for itself. And yes, he was fired from England. So what? Doesn't mean he's not a great coach. Stuart Lancaster was fired. Doesn't mean he's not a great coach. Henneke Meyer was fired, and he was a brilliant coach for the Springboks. Doesn't mean not a great coach. So Sonny Bill needs to understand that. His track record does speak for itself. He took Japan from a perennial Tier 2 team to a Tier 1 team that had the biggest upset in rugby history, defeating the Springboks in Brighton. And getting that team ready so that in the next World Cup, they got to a quarterfinal, winning 4 consecutive games. Now, this is also true. Sonny Bill says that Eddie Jones has burned a lot of bridges. He has. He's burned a lot of bridges. He's a caustic, combative individual who pisses a lot of people off. But so does Sonny Bill Williams. He says, I'm a big believer in the proof is in the pudding. And what is his proof? He's been fired, sacked from me in the last few years. He's burned a lot of bridges. Well, Sonny Bill, you were a non-selection for the All Blacks a lot of times when you should have been a selection. So there's some proof for you. He says, I actually feel sorry for Japan that they believe that this guy is going to take them somewhere where his track record shows that he hasn't been able to do. Really? He took them to incredible success, made them a Tier 1 nation. He took England to Six Nations trophies. He took England to top rankings. He took England to a World Cup final. He won a world championship with the Springboks as assistant coach. What are you talking about? He can't take them there. He's been there. Sonny Bill, you haven't. So I guess I'm just speaking from an ex-player's point of view. I can never believe in someone that I knew was pretty much full of crap. Well, while I like you, Sonny Bill, and I find you to be a very interesting and talented athlete, you're also full of crap. So I can't believe anything you say. He says Japanese culture is built on respect, loyalty, and things that he's shown that he's not about. Well, I don't disagree with you there, and not because of the Australia situation, but because of his lack of loyalty when he signed a contract with Western Cape and the Stormers, and he abandoned them a week later when he's offered the England job. But again, I don't fault him for that. I mean, if I was coaching, university and someone offered me the U.S. national side, I would leave and go do it. Yep. What I did like is this. This was a comment by one of the posters who responded on the Planet Rugby, and this was within 2 hours of being posted. Said, Eddie, now, there's one thing in here that was unnecessary. It's an ad hominem attack, and I'll point that out. But Eddie Jones has forgotten more about rugby than Sonny Bill has ever learned about it. Ouch. The two men can't be equated. Sonny Bill Williams is an overhyped rugby part-timer, ouch, who is as uncertain of his thoughts on rugby as he is of his religion. Now, that was unnecessary. You don't need to attack his faith. He might be a nice guy, I don't know, but he is a rugby has-been and no longer newsworthy. Ouch. Scathing. Minus the ad hominem attack about his faith, that was pretty darn good response. So, again, not an attack on Sonny Bill Williams, but, he doesn't exactly have a lot of credibility on this topic. So, anyone seen The Killers of Flower Moon? No, I have not seen it, but I read the book, and the book is shocking, to say the very least. Killers of the Flower Moon is a very scary situation, folks. Yep. This is what happens when you allow the sort of nonsense that socialists like. So they're going to say it's capitalism, but it wasn't capitalism. It was based on skin and DNA. So Native Americans in Oklahoma, in a particular group, when oil was discovered, were given controlling shares, a small number of them. And those shares remained with them unless someone inherited them. So what happened? Indians and whites colluded to start murdering, whites who married Indians, started murdering Indians to get their oil wealth. This is the 1920s and 30s. This is horrific. This is horrific. The newly formed FBI had to get involved investigating it. It was something else. I have not seen the movie. I don't know how true it is to the book, but the book is shocking. I read the book a few years ago when it came out, Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's just typical human behavior. North America was so wonderful before evil whites came and polluted it. No. Simply not true. Simply not true. It's out on something. I don't know if it's Netflix or if it's on Amazon Prime. I think it's on Amazon Prime. Rugby shouldn't be played on artificial turfs because it makes the game more dangerous. It does. And also, you get turf toe, you get the carpet burns, you get all that stuff. It's nasty, nasty, nasty. Manash Quest reference Eddie, why has the Australian Rugby Unit administration surprised at his moves when he inherited a mess to begin with? And why fire him with the inadequate time to turn things around? Well, exactly, Menashe Kwa. So he is faulted for not playing Bernard Foley and Michael Hooper and Quade Cooper by not bringing them to the World Cup. But let's face it, they will not make another World Cup. They're all too old, and they'll be past it by that stage. And their inclusion here would have been more of the same. So if you're going to include them on the squad, then why fire Dave Rennie? Let Dave Rennie run out the clock. That was my suggestion. If you missed my stream earlier, I talked about this. Eddie Jones has become a convenient lightning rod for Australia Rugby Union to avoid Rugby Australia to avoid responsibility for the mess it has created. Rugby Australia has created the dearth of talent, the abysmal state of rugby in Australia. They are directly responsible for it. Their negligence, their neglect, and the fall from the heights has been pretty significant. So they fired Dave Rennie, and in less than a year, in a Rugby World Cup year, brought in Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones, maybe his ego got the better of him. Maybe the money they offered him got the better of him. But he agreed to come in, and he decided that the future for Rugby Australia was to rely on young talent. Now, that's a good plan for Rugby Australia, but it wasn't going to win them a World Cup. It wasn't going to get them to a semifinal this year. And in fact, it didn't get them to a quarterfinal for the first time they're bounced out. Because of that, and because of the fact that they won no test matches in the build-up to the World Cup, and Eddie kept saying, oh, wait and see, we're going to be competitive, we're going to win the World Cup. And he says, he's fantasy. He should never have said that. He built up expectations for the fools who believed that nonsense and weren't paying attention to the performance on the pitch. And so he is convenient. The officials that run Rugby Australia now can escape blame for their malfeasance, their neglect of rugby. It's kind of like Sorrow. Sorrow is a disaster. The South African rugby union is an absolute disaster. Mark Alexander and all the people there, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. It's a race-hustling organization that is anti-white and is not making bright decisions for rugby. The only smart thing they ever did was leave Super Rugby and join the Pro 14, become United Rugby Championship. Now they reorganized the Currie Cup, and that might be a good move. We'll see. But their failure to promote the game of rugby at grassroots level at schools throughout the country over the past 30 years is one of the reasons why we have this issue about race in rugby. There should be no issue. And to me, there is no issue. You pick the best players based on talent and merit. I don't care if they're white, brown, black, and blue. I mean, look at some of my favorite players. Damon Willemse, not a white dude. Curtly Arnsey, not a white dude. Oxen Shea, not a white dude. These are some of my favorite rugby players. Grant Williams, not a white dude. And I root for them wholeheartedly because they're some of my favorite rugby players. Anyway, Monty Libick, I'm torn. But Saru is responsible for this. This is a rugby union that nearly went bankrupt. The Western Cape Rugby Union is a disaster. It's in bankruptcy. And that's why we keep losing players who are looking for money elsewhere. We lost Khaleesi. We lost Etzebeth to the Sharks, who could pay them more. We lost Kitsoff. We've lost what's his name was back now. Geez, not Vimse, but the other one who just came back. Yeah. Warwick Kalant, he disappeared because he made money elsewhere. And you can't blame the players. You can only play sport for so many years, and you need to make a living. You need to bank money. Yep. Check your WhatsApp. Ooh, Hendo's sending messages to Fiona. Choco, they got Eddie Jones, and the States have Alex Jones. Okay, if you say so. My Family Cinema, whatever that is. Yeah, so I have not watched that movie, and I'm not in a hurry to see it because the book was so well written. Yep. It's good investigative journalism there. Yeah, no, menage a trois. The Australian Rugby Union is not surprised. I think this is intentional. I suspect this is intentional all along. But Eddie Jones, shouldn't have been dishonest. He shouldn't have been dishonest. He shouldn't have been talking to Japan Rugby Union about being a coach there. He obviously was. He shouldn't have denied it. He should have just waited till the World Cup was over and then let them approach him. But he didn't. He made a mistake, and we are where we are. So anyway. But, this is, as far as I'm concerned, intentional by Rugby Australia to get themselves off the hook so that they're not responsible for the decline. I mean, look, the state of rugby union in Australia is really poor, folks. Rugby league is doing well, but rugby union is a disaster. It's a shame. There's some great teams down there. Rugby is alive and well in New Zealand, and at the grassroots level, it's alive and well in South Africa. But we've still got some challenges there with franchises not making money and bums not getting in the seat. It's very disappointing to see so few people show up for these matches in South Africa. Now, people blame it on the size of the stadiums. We should have small stadiums like the European sides do. If you only have 8,000 to 12,000 seats, then you'll sell out. Okay, if you say so. But we even have games where there's only like 300 people showing up at a Lions game. That's not going to sell out in a 3,000 or 4,000 seat stadium. It's a problem with the ANC. Everything's based on race when it comes to sport. Look at cricket and Southern. Well, remember what happened in the netball. In the netball competition a couple years ago, what happened there? Well, a team, because they have quotas, you have to have specific numbers. You always have to have like 2 white players on the pit on the court at any time for a team. Well, in a game, a team won the semifinal. They were going to the final. And bear in mind that this is a sport that women can make money at professionally, playing in Australia, playing in England. They make money at netball. They actually make a living from it. So these athletes won the game. They were excited. They won it outright. And when the game was over, their game was forfeited. Their game was forfeited. In fact, let me see if it was on this channel or the other channel. Let's see, netball. See if I got it. Netball. That's it. It's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than that. It's not showing me this year. It's only showing me this year. Anyway, but that netball game a couple years ago, they were nullified, and they didn't go on to the final, and the other team went. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because they didn't have enough white players. So they had a player who was injured, who was white, who couldn't go back on the pitch. So they left the black player in there for a few minutes, and that nullified it because they had too many black players. Can you believe that? The stupidity of that. The stupidity of that. Why does that not show up on my channel? I don't understand that. Anyway, that was a couple years ago. Yep. Anyway, so I should actually not be shouting in on social platforms. That's how things get blocked and shut down. What? What did Charles say? Conglomeration of all the channels. Oh, okay, that's what you're talking about. Oh, he pays a subscription for it. So there you go. There you go. Okay. Snowman smile does my head. What, you don't like his smile? He's a great smile. Snowman's got a great smile, man. Look at that. Well, then let's not talk about it if it's illegal. We shouldn't be discussing illegal things. Anyway, yeah. So I think it's on Amazon, folks, to answer your question about the flowers of the Killers of the Flower Moon. Great book. If you can get the book, it's incredible. I may reread it again because it was just that shocking a book. I do a lot of reading, so I might do that. We'll see. Anyway, folks, let me wrap it up here. I've got to prep for service meeting tonight with veterans and write some policy up for that. Put together a few books, make a trip to the bookstore and to the office supply store to pick up a few things. And, yeah, so I'll be back. You all guys have a lovely evening. I've got to set up, see if I've got streaming tomorrow for the Champions Challenge Cup or Saturday. Saturday, we got Breakfast with Santa, which runs from 6 until 11. Interferes with my rugby, but because I'm under the weather, I don't want to be around the kiddies and their families. So I'll pop in, be there for a bit, help set up, then leave most likely and come do the rugby. So there you go. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hit the like button. Be sure to like the broadcast if you don't mind. Really appreciate it. Let me take a look at my solar real quick, see if it's gone anywhere. Okay, we haven't looked at it since we first started. Okay, 2.31. It's 6.76 now. There you go. Sun is shining. Come on, bring it on. Solar power. Loving it, love it, love it. Every kilowatt hour I get from the solar panels is one less that I have to pay the electric company for, and every one that I don't use, it goes back into the inverter, gives me credit. You're welcome, Dave. Thanks a lot. You guys take care, and I'll be back tomorrow one way or another, unless something breaks today. Cheers, everybody, and do appreciate it. Okay. That's what I was looking for. Cheers.